everybody, welcome to Milwaukee Music Lessons. My name is Alex Bennett, and in today's video, we are going to go over a technique that's very, very popular on the guitar. We are going to talk about bending. Bending is not necessarily unique to guitar, but it is, I would say it's a defining feature, something that I hear a lot of guitar players play. Country, rock, blues, metal, pop. A lot of modern styles utilize bending in some way, shape, or form. And it's great because what you're effectively trying to do is you're trying to remove the illusion of the frets. You're creating a less robotic, a more human feeling with your instrument. And so when you're kind of in that beginner stage and you're starting to make your way into the intermediate stage, this technique is it's a game changer. It gives you so much more to work with. So I'm going to cover a few things. I'll do a brief introduction into bends here, and then we'll start to work our way through some helpful tips, as well as a whole bunch of different ways that you can utilize bends in this video, right? Not necessarily a comprehensive deep dive into each of these techniques, but maybe just kind of a nice overview as to what bends are and give you some ideas on how you can use them, right? So first off, what is a bend? So a bend is where you're going to use your fingers when you're holding down a fret on a guitar, and you're going to basically press and push on the string, stretching it out even more. And what I think a lot of beginner guitar players or people who are fresh to the technique don't really understand when they first start doing is that, yes, it's a technique on guitar, but it's a precise technique. You are trying to bend to another pitch, and you're trying to get to a very specific pitch, right? We bend in terms of like steps, so half steps, whole steps, steps and a half, or even like quarter steps, which would kind of be like notes between frets. We'll talk about that a little more in detail in a second, but just to give you kind of a quick example, let's say I'm here on fret 7 of the G string, and I decide that I want to bend, I want to get to a pitch that's on fret 9. So that would be 2 frets, that's a whole step. I want to do a whole step bend. So I'm not, the bend isn't just like rip it as hard as you possibly can. A bend is, we're gonna try and match that pitch going from fret 7 to fret 9. So it should go something like this. You see how I managed to get that bend to match the pitch of fret 9? That's what we're trying to do. That's our goal in this particular case. There are so many more ways to bend it, right? I mentioned that you can go in half steps or steps and a half. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to just match that pitch up and get it to sound like any other note that you would have on the guitar. But again, it's not about necessarily the destination so much as it is like the journey. It's a lot different than just a standard. Instead, now we get, it just gives it a little bit more of that human feel. Now, a common complaint with guitar players who first start using this technique is just how difficult it is to actually bend. It's a lot of tension, and it pushes really hard on your fingers. A lot of people get fatigue on their fingers, or they kind of reach a threshold of pain to the point where they're like, I can't bend anymore to get to the destination that I want. And that's understandable because it is hard on your fingertips. If you don't have the calluses or if you don't have the finger strength to be able to do it, it can be a tough learning curve. But there are still some ways that we can kind of be more efficient at how we bend our strings. And the first thing that we can do is we can make sure that we get all, or at least as many fingers behind that note as possible. There may be some scenarios where, you're forced to use just a pointer finger, but most of the time we have the opportunity to get either like 2 fingers or 3 fingers on the string that we're bending at the same time, just giving us that much more leverage and that much more strength to push it around. Notice how I have my ring finger, it's the one that's holding down fret 7, but my middle and pointer fingers are all on the string, giving it that extra push. The other thing too is you're going to want to make sure that you have the right kind of leverage when you're pushing on the string, right? We don't want our hand around the neck. That's just not going to give us any sort of push. I get my thumb almost over the back side of the neck when I'm pushing something like this. And that just helps you so that way you can push and squeeze as much as possible while basically being able to extend your fingers to push. So your thumb allows you to grip, allows you to push down on the string, and then your fingers extend forward in order to help you push those strings across. If you're finding yourself, deading out as you continue to push, or, accidentally bumping into other strings, that's okay. It might just be a little bit of a finger placement or a thumb placement, a hand placement, getting that leverage right behind it. Now, lastly, I want to go over some ideas about how these bend techniques are used. Bends are really cool because there's a whole lot of versatility in it. By removing the frets, you're giving yourself a whole lot of freedom that you didn't know you had, not just with your movements and your motion, but also your ability to combine with other techniques. So we've done a whole step bend this entire time from fret 7 to fret 9, but you could also do a half step bend, or you could get a step and a half. That's a pretty hefty bend, but you can do it. You also have the ability to do releases. So if I bend up, I can go back to that fret 7 that I was originally at. Or I can do a bend, release, bends. I can do what's called a pre-bend, where I bring my fingers up to where they're supposed to be, the pitch already, and then bring it back down with a release. I can combine it with things like vibrato, or I can combine it with techniques like a pinch harmonic. I mean, really, there's a whole bunch of options, and I haven't even touched on ideas like creating bend chords. Bends into extended bends, so like, oh gosh, I forgot about quarter step bends. I forgot microtonal bends. Those are bends that occur in between frets. Seriously, there's a ton of stuff to cover with bends. So many possibilities, combinations, different tricks that we can cover. If this is something that you want me to go more in depth in a future video, be happy to do it. But this is just kind of a broad strokes. We're getting the basic concepts, getting the gist of how bending works. So I think that'll do it for today's video. If you have any questions, leave me a comment or send me an email, and I'd be happy to try and get back to you and help you on your guitar playing journey. So my name is Alex Bennett, and we will see you guys in the next video.